Hello all, welcome back if you've been to one of my panels already today. This one is learn how to adopt automation successfully from those who have. So hopefully there's some pockets of gold dust in here from especially an SME like Jonathan who has been through an automation process. So I'll just ask each panelist to introduce themselves and then we'll get into the questions.
Right, I'm Jonathan Thacker, Operations Director at the Walsall Wheelbarrow Company. As you probably guessed by the name, we manufacture wheelbarrows. We adopted automation back in 2012 and we are currently producing over 300,000 wheelbarrows per year.
I'm Rosie Davis. I'm Managing Director at Rico Automation. We specialise in cobot palletizers and case packers. Previous to that, I was with an integration company, robotics, mainly of the industrial form. I'm also on the board of directors for Automate, and I'm vice chairman at Bara.
Cool. And finally, me, Stephen Grace. I work for Cummins. So Cummins is a global famous for diesel engine manufacturing, but we produce a lot of power solutions across green technologies as well as the diesel engine, which we're most famous for. And at Cummins, I lead automation and technology globally.
And I'm Tom Flood, co-founder of Engineers Insight and presenter of the UK Automation Forum as of very recently. I'm certainly not the expert. I do have some sort of background in automation, but I will ask the questions and try not to answer anything myself. Let's start with Jonathan's story. Talk to us about your first steps into automation and how close were you to saying no?
So Walsall Wheelbarrows is a company of 30 years old this year, and we introduced automation back in 2012. So we were about 15 years old at the time. The reasons why we introduced automation is our existing plant and machinery was coming to the end of its life. We were having major breakdowns, major panics. It was costing a lot for repairs. And we basically had a choice. We had three options. We had one option, not to do anything and just carry on regardless. The second option, similar to majority of our competitors, was to mothball the plant and machinery and import from the Far East parts and then become an assembly line in the West Midlands. And the third option, obviously, was the automation route. So it was a difficult choice. Being in the region of the West Midlands, we were manufacturers at heart, but we had to obviously be led by our head. And it was a difficult process. The challenges were the standard ones, funding the investment initially, the challenges of the workforce, reacting to change. So there was a lot of, in the initial stages, there were a lot of routes of saying, no, we'll pick the other two options. But to be honest, it was the best option. We chose, obviously, to automate. But it's not the end of the journey for us. We're about 70% automated now. But we've got to carry on. We're investing in the next 6 months a large investment of about £1 million for a small business. We're also looking at current automation and how we can improve on that. So we're reinvesting in that now as well. So it's a long journey, but it's obviously we've benefited from it.
And Steve, from your point of view, working for a prime or an enterprise, what's Cummins' perspective on automation?
More. So I think it's really interesting, when we've been talking before this, the challenges are very similar. The scale is different. We're obviously under the same supply chain pressures as a lot of other companies out there. So and obviously that's very amplified right now as we think about regional and global supply chain challenges. And then labour in its own right, labour scarcity, the right labour in the right places is very much a driver. So we've had the same pressures that the rest of us are all feeling, forcing us down that road. Now we've been on the journey a long time, and we've managed to create a situation in Cummins that investment in manufacturing, investment in automation is actually accepted as a way of driving our continuous improvement, which is a positive for us.
And Rosie, I suppose the audience's point of view, they either find themselves working for a prime or an SME, they're wondering, how do we automate? How do you build a relationship with those sort of companies as an integrator to bring automation in and help their processes?
It depends where the journey starts, really, as an integrator. I guess the question is, where do you find a suitable integrator? How do you connect with the right integrator to suit your needs? Because we all specialize in something very different, and I think that's the first thing that you realize when you start exploring the robotics market. Even coming to a show like this, you're understanding actually who's just supplying it, who's actually going to come and install it for me, which is great. So the exhibition landscape is very useful because you can have those conversations directly with the people that are supplying automation, and that just comes in so many different forms. I'd suggest that if you're wondering how to connect with the right integrator, then potentially to go directly to a robot supplier might be a useful start, because if you go to FANUC, ABB, KUKA, Omron, they'll all have a partner portfolio. It's a carefully selected group of integrators that can potentially support your supply needs. And as a supplier of the robot, it's like the main component in that supply. Potentially you've got other ancillary equipment around it, like the tooling, the conveying system, the programming, the control panel. It's their robot. If it doesn't work out, it's their name against that installation, and actually they will do everything they can to support it and make sure that it's the right integrator providing the right solution for whatever your needs are. So that would be a good place to find a good integrator and start those conversations potentially.
I think also is definitely for an SME, obviously we've got limited resources, is to find that the right partner, but also to try and simplify the introduction as much as possible. I always say that our strength is we know a lot about wheelbarrows, but our weakness is we only know about wheelbarrows. So we were relying on people like, we were fortunate that one of our existing suppliers actually did automation. But I think in general, as an SME, it would be daunting to find that start. And obviously shows like this today is an excellent way of starting the process.
Should I go?
Well, you go.
I was just going to big up the integrators as well, because not just Rosie, but I think we wouldn't have done it without them. I mean, we have resource, but we have resource which is stretched to support in the lines that we already run. So it's often great to buy that extra capacity, but also to buy the innovation and the ideas. Like you said, I mean, it's not wheelbarrows for us, it's different things, but we only know what we know, and we don't look out the window often enough.
And actually just doing your homework before you start that engagement process, because you guys have so little time on site, like you want to get to the right solution very quickly, but just involving an integrator, coming to site, scoping out your requirements, building a concept, a design drawing that meet those needs within the URS potentially. It's a really time-consuming process. So if you can whittle it down as best possible to the integrator that has experience in certain applications. And what's really important is to find reference sites and speak to their existing customers on their experiences with the equipment, the installation process, and of course the all-important after sales as well.
I think it's just the for us as a SMEs, it's a risk of failure as well, and obviously getting that first selection and decision right, it's critical. Obviously, if you choose wrong, it's financial disaster. But I speak to a lot of SMEs who are concerned about automation. I'm saying just look in the future. If you don't invest in your company, you won't be in the next 10 years. So it doesn't matter. You've just got to take that risk.
So I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of an SME, right, who's not automated. And I did used to sell automation, so I did get roadblocks from these people, so I understand what's stopping them. But the two things that would come up was finance. How the hell am I going to afford a 100 grand installation? So that's my first point to any of you that want to pick that up. And then the second one is the concern of the workforce. This is probably a good one for you, Jonathan. Going from manual process to automated, I'm sure there's a lot of backlash from employees.
Yeah, I mean, again, as a family business, as SME, we consider all our employees as part of the family. So it's kind of a cultural change that you need to set out from the very start, and it's all about communication, telling them what you're going to do from day one, rather than just carrying on and then the transporters roll in with like 3 or 4 robots and I think, oh, what's happening here? It's just all about communication, making sure they are aware of job security. We've got a very proud record at Walsall Wheelbarrows that we've never made anybody redundant in terms of when we've introduced automation. And as I said, we're 70% automated now. People have gone on, obviously, to change their roles within the business. They've become from forklift truck drivers to become robot technicians. So they benefit as well. In the end, they get paid more, obviously, as well. And it's just making sure that they are fully aware of where our plans are, not next week's plans, talk about 5 years. And the growth of the business is due to automation. One of our biggest sellers to our customers is taking them around the factory tour. We had 15 customers. It was a group of builders merchants. I think 3 or 4 of them never bought or never considered buying off wheelbarrows from Walsall Wheelbarrows. They came about 3 weeks ago. We've converted those now to Walsall Wheelbarrow customers, and that's just because of automation, I believe.
I was going to throw in, I mean, admittedly, Cummins might have a slightly larger checkbook than Jonathan, but it's still money, and there's still an ROI. I think, one of the things that we try a lot with the plants that are progressing is, particularly you've got to pick some early wins, some quick wins that are successful, which I think, would resonate with all of you. So we always try and do that, because then later on we earn the right to have the slightly longer paybacks that come with other projects. And so that's the same whether you're big, small, or medium. When it comes to sort of cultural change around automation, I think we have fancy phrases like change management and management of change and processes that go with that, but it's ultimately the same. Take it slow on the first one, bring people along on the journey all the way from the beginning, all stakeholders, because once it becomes normalized, it becomes a lot easier and you can go a lot faster. But particularly with the shop floor and people who feel that there's a risk, they need to understand that it's not a risk. And like you, I don't believe that we've never released anybody directly as a result of automation.
Picking up on the finance, as an integrator, we're faced with a great deal of pressure, in particular in this economic climate, to provide a solution with a payback within like under 2 years in some instances. It's a really difficult thing to have to manage to get them a solution that is affordable and within budget. Luckily, there are many integrators that will supply automation on a lease basis, so they'll either self-finance or they'll work with a lease partner to effectively lease a robot to you to offset directly against your operational costs rather than go through a procurement process, which is incredibly stringent on times. It can be very long-winded, and by the time you get out the other side, the whole team that you were working with has gone, moved on to pastures new. I mean, we work a lot in the food industry, and that unfortunately happens all too often. It's very difficult to get to that final point, but leasing can potentially be a really quick win to get things moving, and do the calculations, and the savings are there instantly.
I think the banks also have a lot of bad press nationally, but our bank, Lloyds Bank, have actually supported us throughout the process and tried to cater for different scenarios to help, obviously, our cash flow, which is obviously vital for a small business. So, again, similar to winning employees in terms of automation, the banks, the financial people, you've got to win their trust as well. And also, it's again communicating with those sort of people to give you the funding in the first place.
And luckily, there are lots of financial providers that recognise even intangible assets in the build of a fully integrated solution that has got a lot of design, project management, programming. They will fund that. It is a lot more recognised these days, so that's a good thing.
So can I ask, Jonathan, where did you start? Because if I'm sat in one of these seats now, I'll be thinking, who do I go to? Do I ask Rosie for help? Do I go and speak to Lloyds? Do I need to write a business plan? Like, what was the first step?
I think all of them, really. It's first of all, obviously, you've got to develop the business plan to make it a viable proposition for everybody's sake. And then we spoke to the bank. They offered advice, pointed us in some right directions. As I said, we were fortunate in a way that one of our suppliers had dealt in automated cells previously, and this was a supplier of, at the time, 20 years working together. So the trust was there straight away for us. But as other projects came along, there became other challenges. Finding new people to help us on the route. As I said, we knew nothing about automation, so we relied on other external sources to help us. Naming one is obviously we use Fanuc a lot, and they've helped us. If they can't help us, they pointed us in the right direction as well.
So I'm going to open this up to all three of you, because I'm sure you've all got a story, but what's gone wrong? It can't all be plain sailing.
Obviously, nothing has gone wrong. We've had our fair share of projects which have not worked out quite to plan. I think the thing that comes to mind is that we were doing some work. I'm just trying to think about how to make my dirty laundry a little bit cleaner. So bear with me a second. But I think understand your underlying process, which may sound obvious. And the story I'm thinking about is about a project where nothing was exactly as the print said it was. And no one actually went and understood there's people laughing. The statement of work didn't really reflect the process, and when we automated it as per the print, it didn't work. So all I would say is make sure you understand the underlying processes fully and understand the variation you're trying to manage with the process. Because if you don't, then you're in for a very expensive mess, allegedly.
I don't think we say things go wrong. I think we say things get delayed. So there are delaying moments along the process, but I think when there are problems that occur, I think you learn more about what you want to achieve in the end. If everything went 100%, I know that I wouldn't have known as much about automation as when things go wrong, you tend to learn more. So there's been no, touch wood, large projects that have gone wrong. They're just simply been delayed. And it's also, because you're dealing with probably 3 or 4 different suppliers along the way. So you're dealing with the automation side, you're dealing with the tooling, tool makers, you're dealing with the press people, the hydraulic people. So it's not failures, it's delays, we call them.
But that's a daunting thought for an SME that's not automated to think, well, actually, my process has 10 other people in the supply chain.
I think it's more daunting if you don't do anything now. I think if you don't do anything, if we hadn't done anything, our problems would have got larger and larger, and it sometimes results in the failure of a business. So I think, yeah, it is a daunting task. It's enjoyable as well, and you do, every day is a school day, and it's just I see that many SMEs who are bemoaning the fact that they've got old equipment and they've got obviously pressures of higher wages, national insurance, and it for somebody who's done it, it's quite a simple solution. You just got to take that first step, and it is daunting, but enjoyable as well.
Anything, Rosie?
Yeah, I was going to say having a very robust URS is a great place to start. We spoke on the call last week, and we talked about how important it was to communicate fully the requirements for your project. And a lot of SMEs, a lot of businesses we've worked with, they don't have a project management team. They don't have an automation team in-house. Bara actually have issued a template URS that anyone can build. A plug for Bara. It's available on the website by now, I think, isn't it? Looking at Andrew, he's like, yeah. And that's really, really key. Some integrators will also offer visual offline demonstrations of the equipment working, so they will build that for you in potentially in the robotic software that they're using, even 3D SolidWorks CAD. That will go so far also in actually demonstrating offline that it can meet the speed requirements that you require. So it's worth speaking to an integrator about that to verify the solution before you actually commit to purchase.
I think also going back to the sort of the SME, that yes, we don't have the resources, but I think you also need a champion within the company who pushes forward. That wasn't me with ourselves. It was my father, my late father. But I think again, it's somebody who pushes you to take those steps as well, and that's important for an SME. Is to get somebody like that who's looking, 5 years down the way to try and get over the first step.
Because you spoke about the cultural changes throughout the years, Jonathan, with your adoption of automation, and actually that buy-in from your workforce is key, really.
I mean, we've got the other thing is obviously looking at the future is introducing younger people to manufacturing, especially on our scale. We've got an ageing workforce. Our average age is 49 now, so I'm well above average on that one. So it's trying to introduce younger people to pass on, yes, the traditional skills, but also for them to introduce us to the more modern technology. We've got 3 young apprentices. I think they're all 18 now, and they're obviously into screens and computers, and it gives us that push as well, and it encourages them. They can go into the shop floor. 20 years ago, it was probably a scene from, like the Black Country Museum. But now it's all screens, it's all automation. It makes them more willing to learn and become more attracted to manufacturing, which we need, obviously.
It's just going to go back to a point you made earlier, and obviously me not being S or M, being a bit larger. And in my world, we'll call it strategy. You'll talk about an objective, but I think whether or not you're an SME or a large blue chip, whatever you want to call us, you've got to understand what you're using automation for. And then I think once you understand what you're trying to drive in the business, maybe that's capacity increase or cost reduction or reshoring your supply chain, it allows you to figure out what value you need to drive from the automation and then what you need to do. Now, that may sound a little bit MBA-ish, but I'm sorry about that. But the point is that all businesses, depending on scale, regardless of scale, you need to have that clarity about what you're trying to drive with the automation deployments, because then it will give you that, like you were saying, you had a champion and you understood what you were trying to deliver, and that will help make it progress better.
All done? Yep. Right, so I don't want to finish yet on roadblocks, because I think it's an important point that, we've got, the whole point of this forum is about hopefully convincing you to take the next steps into automation, or the first steps. So I want to open it up to you guys. What are the roadblocks that you have in your business? Or if you're in sales, what are your customers saying? Is it finance? Is it ROI? Is it that they don't understand automation? They don't have connections like Rosie? They don't have case studies like Jonathan? What is it that's stopping you or others moving forward? Because it's stopping the whole industry, really. Anyone? Is it safety? Mr. Safety Consultant at the back.
I think just going on the return on investments as well. I mean, we always look for probably a longer term, and I think we may need to do that in the future rather than the 2 years, more 5, 6, 7 years sort of thing.
I remember a project back when I had a real job at a big automotive company. And they wanted a 6-month ROI.
Yeah, we're not going past 2 years anytime soon. Less is better. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, since we all obviously added automation, our working environment has vastly improved. Obviously, our safety records, and obviously, with net zero, obviously that's something that a lot of our larger customers are looking for, and obviously that again is another tick for us in the box.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. I mean, I think a lot about like safety, quality, and delivery, and cost and people. And we look at that whole spread of those factors when we're considering it. In actual fact, our big push right now with AMRs is very much driven by our desire to reduce our risk around fork trucks, right? So that's the kind of thing that's driving our focus in that technology space. Having said that, though, they're still looking. The accountancy department only take direct cost savings. So even though there's a lot of secondary benefits, even quality savings are not allowed. We're not allowed to count if they're direct. Which, by the way, I'm trying to change that, but apparently accountants are really important people. Sorry, anybody in the audience? Okay.
I'm part of the accounts team.
Okay. We'll talk about wheelbarrows more now. But no, I think it's a great point. I think, we recognise there's benefits. If you wanted to, you could cost accidents. We don't want to do that. but obviously making our workforce, our workplace safer for our people is absolutely top of mind. And if I can get some more AMRs, anyone know any good brands of AMRs I think I've already bought several from you, sir. So.
Yeah, hello. It's already been mentioned the aging workforce is kind of a concern. I go around, Tom's already alluded, I'm a safety consultant. I'm in all sorts of machinery and engineering plants. The aging workforce seems to be a commonality throughout all industry, but robots don't really seem to be being spoken of actually as a solution to that. You know, rightfully so, we should be talking about education and apprentices, absolutely 100%. But there seems to be a bit of a conversation that is missing. I don't know if people use that as a sales piece when they're talking about automation, or I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Going back to my favourite strategy word earlier, it's definitely in our strategy. So we've at a high level, when we went to justify some of our internal investment approaches, yes, we used labour scarcity, aging data. A lot of it's US centric, so that we use in our actual business case creation, but very cognizant, particularly with our supply chain changes that are going to not be a choice potentially in the future. We're mindful that we may be having to reshore activities, and that is there. It's definitely part of our compelling reason for some of our investments.
I mean, we're a workforce of 50 people. If we chose an option one, like remain the same, 14 years ago, we would have to employ another 30 odd people, and that would be just a nightmare now. Fortunately, you've got to make the sort of the working environment or the attractive to potential employees, and also you get the benefit of bringing in higher quality people in SMEs. So it is very important that, yeah.
But we talked about the workforce and, you know, youngsters coming through with potentially more skills from education, but you don't have to have a workforce of programmers and software developers. If you find an integrator, the likelihood is they have a really easy, user-friendly operating system that doesn't require a programmer to operate.
Yeah, like keep it simple scenario for us.
It's simple, exactly. Yeah. No, and many integrators do have their own software, and actually, you know, if you need further support, they should be there to provide that for any future upgrades or anything else. So, I think, you know, the package with training that comes, you know, when you adopt automation, get your operators involved before it lands on site. There's many integrators that will offer training before it gets delivered to site, so you're not just chucking it in and letting them get on with it.
Is there a challenge of the number of integrators, though? If everybody suddenly starts adopting automation, will there be enough support?
Yeah, there's loads. We've got loads of competition. I won't worry about them running out. There's loads of us.
Anyone else in the audience? Any more roadblocks we want to go through? Yep.
How do you provide reassurance to people that are looking to implement these solutions around, you know, reliability and not coming into faults with the equipment?
Well, it was interesting, actually. I was having a discussion with somebody earlier. As technology advances, there are more products around the robot to basically optimize utilization. There are dashboards. I was talking to my friend at RAR. He's got something similar. We've got something similar. Schubert, I'm sure, have something very similar. To keep attuned as to how efficient your equipment is running, conditional monitoring, you know, event logs, looking at what's going to fail, giving you a heads up, actually interventions from operators correctly, incorrectly. all of that in a very simple dashboard that supports you to make the most out of your equipment. But yeah, it's not going to just, a robot isn't going to run forever and not need maintenance. Of course it does. Plan preventative maintenance, a robust service schedule with remote support as well, because an integrator will provide that to be able to remotely log in, diagnose, and get you back up and running. It is available.
I would just add that what I see now is that things are more reliable. I would just say that as a technology space, we see less. I mean, we have teething issues. We talked about delays. I like that, by the way. I'm going to steal that, Jonathan. Some projects take a little while to achieve their performance criteria. The other thing, I'm going to ask Rosie if this URS that she's talked about has an uptime field on there for what you put in against the integrator. Apparently not, but you can manage risk in many different ways. So, sorry, did I put you on the spot there?
I haven't seen one of your URSs, Stephen. Maybe Andrew could comment.
It probably brings you back to an earlier point, actually, of working with not just the integrator, but the OEM. So go and speak to the robot companies, speak to the PLC companies, because they'll hold the warranties anyway. So that's where you get your reassurance from the manufacturer that you're picking the right kit, and it will last the lifetime of the
If you go to a supplier, a robot supplier, and they say, we give you 5 years warranty, you know how much confidence they've got in their own product.
Because, again, it's all about communication as well, and it's not just, I think we spoke about it the other day, it's not just the cell, the automated cell, it's what the process around it, and whether you've got the processes around that cell correct. You could put the best cell in the world and then find out that there's something wrong with another process that doesn't make the automated cell work. So you've got to look at it as a whole picture as well, rather than just a single cell.
Anyone else? No? Okay, we're running out of time. I've got to somehow round all of that up. Anyone else want to take that? No? Okay, so I think the key takeaways are engage with the OEMs, engage with people like Rosie, so the big call to action of this is to speak to these panelists and understand their journeys, hate the word journeys, pain points or delays, or who they should have spoke to first, or what they could have done better, because it is a huge step for an SME to jump into automation.
Can I just give a quick plug? Because actually another idea is that you can go straight to the association. So Automate UK, they have a machinery finder section, and also BARA, the British Association for Robotic Automation. We have a council, we have a stand. It's quite quiet, it's a bit backsided. But there's several people on council that can also point you in the right direction. And there will soon be a robotic integrator accreditation scheme that can help you with that decision making.
The other thing I always say, except for other wheelbarrow manufacturers, anybody's welcome to obviously visit Walsall Wheelbarrows.
Right, we've got 3 minutes. I'm going to open it to all of you. What should these people do next? What if they want to take their first step into automation? What should their next 30 days look like?
I'm going to start at this end. I think figure out what problem you're trying to solve. Be clear about what you're trying to solve. Just focus around that. Understand what that means and what process or what metrics you're trying to impact within your operations and your business. And then either go and do the research or get a good integrator and then figure out the best solution to impact the problem you actually want to solve. Automation applied blindly, I don't think is very effective. Automation applied specifically is good.
Sorry. I think the key word for me today: don't delay, don't push it, keep pushing it away. Make that the first 30 days, make that first day, and then you'll all reap the benefits.
Get a solid URS. Do your research. Come to the show. Come to PPMA. Another great place to start. And yeah, have those conversations with the team around you, your management teams, and make sure they're all on board before you start the process.
That's important, yeah.
Okay, thank you all. So I'm just going to repeat my call to action, is make the most of these 3 people sat here after this is finished. And thank you all for sitting in, not falling asleep. Appreciate it.